Okay, this is the
There
town
you go.
hall ad hoc debrief meeting on February 7th, 2023. Present are, let's see, I'll call roll. Angela,
Here.
John,
Yes,
and Dan is on the other side.
he's here.
Okay, and let's see, and then
Oh.
Chris.
Wait, looks like he's on the, could be on his iPad. See if you can transfer him to panelist now.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah. Are you on the phone, Dan?
No, I'm on the
Oh, there
iPad.
we go.
Okay, there he comes.
There.
Well,
There you go.
there you go. You're on the panelist, Dan.
There
You
you
can
go.
come on now.
So we have John, Angela,
Thank you.
Dan, and no Chris or no Kelly.
Yeah, let me find out.
No email, no phone call, no nothing. And I thought my instructions were clear that if you couldn't attend, please let me know and read the minutes and send suggestions. Right? That's
Yeah.
what I said, right?
Mm-hmm. Were we supposed to send suggestions if we were going to be here?
If you were going to be
okay.
absent, I wanted them to be participants if they weren't here to have their ideas, actually heard.
Of course,
But
my notes are on my mock-up of the minutes, which is on the same iPad that I'm zooming in from. So this will be fun.
So anyway, did everybody have a chance to read those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did too. I read them twice.
I'm not gonna lie, between the elections and everything going on at the Assistants League and my son, I didn't have time. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm such a tard right now because, again, I've had so much going on right now, still that I saved the minutes, I sent out the minutes, and my computer has done like an upsy daisy thing on its own where it updated and put things where I didn't put them. And I'm not sure what it did. So give me a minute here. And I'm going to take my copy that I printed and scan this baby so I can share it with you all.
Can you just pull it off the email attachment? Would that be easier than scanning?
Ooh, you're smart. Maybe. That's an idea. Okay, let's try that.
Or it could just be that I'm familiar with that because my workaround of getting digital things to transfer is not great. And I know that when they're in an email attachment, you can access them from your email.
Send. Go to send. All right. Let's see.
I have my notepad.
Sent. Where is it, Angela? Okay, here it is.
Okay.
Download. There we go. And there we go. Awesome. There we go. So now I can close this again and screen share. Thank you, Angela.
Sure, glad it worked.
Brain just wasn't thinking that direction. So there we go. Awesome.
Chris said he's on his way home from work. He's going to try to see if he can join in the car.
Oh, tell him to drive safely and don't text and drive either.
So, let's see. So these are the minutes. So this basically is a statement that was read all that, who the participants were.
Mm-hmm.
And then the special thanks. And then it gets into the LAPD update on Peck Park. Working group update, which nobody showed for that from CD15. They were on their way out the door with both legs out already, I think, at that point. And then LAPD's presentation. Okay. So all of this kind of wraps around something that came up last night. And something that's kind of, I think we need to incorporate into our breakdown and our just kind of everything together. Last night at executive board, it got into like this in-depth, well, Angela was there. Did you listen to a lot of it?
So when things went off on a little bit of a tangent,
Yeah,
I probably was paying about 50% attention because I was doing other stuff with the kids
right.
off and on.
Because a
but
couple
I
of
was
individuals
aware.
kind of went sideways. One of them, I won't mention names, but there are a couple of regular participants that tend to have tangents sometimes and go
Mhm.
like all kinds of crazy directions.
Yeah, and all of them were, you know,
And some of them
important
were
things.
valid, they were
Mhm.
valid, but it just kept going on and on and on.
Right. That's
And
why I'm saying I probably had about half, like maybe one ear
yeah,
in that part of
and
the meeting.
so one of the things that I took away from all of this is there's a lot of concern about police response in general. There's
Mhm.
the lack of it, the lack of them responding, the lack of them being concerned within CD15, let alone and the harbor area all in general. There's just this lack of enforcement, lack of concern, lack of follow-up, lack of and as I pointed out to one of the individuals, yes, I totally agree with it, but this individual, he wants me to go in with guns blazing and I'm not doing enough and going at their throat with the juggler going after them. And that's not the way we're going to fix this. It's
Right.
got to be a partnership to have asks from them and meet them with bread and butter in between, you know, kind of to try and get some resolvement to this.
Right. And I mean, Tarragona had a neighborhood watch meeting
Yeah, Paul
about
came
2
for,
weeks now, and it was really
right.
good. Like, I think, you know, like you said, a collaborative approach is a good one, talking with the community about increased awareness, increased maybe security cameras.
And like
Um,
I had Paul come to our public safety meeting, he came and
mhm,
he talked about the neighborhood watch. I mean, it was right after you guys had your neighborhood watch.
mhm.
And part of the problem too, there, not the break-ins, it didn't cause the break-ins, but only 3 of the 8 break-ins in that area filed a police report.
Yeah, that was a really interesting part of the neighborhood watch, because if you ask people to describe their stories and their experiences, they'll tell you they reported it.
But
But
they reported on Facebook.
there's a difference
Right.
between telling the police and filling out a police report.
Exactly.
And so they don't have accurate statistics for the break-ins in the area.
Right. So, and they don't, telling them and Facebook is not a valid
Right.
citation for a report. They have to have those hard copy reports, and it's getting people poking them and saying, you cannot post on Facebook and consider that reporting a crime. You have
Right.
got to do the reports. You've got to file on the website if it's a file website complaint, or you've got to go in person and stomp your feet. And like Paul said at our meeting, if they tell you at that desk that they cannot do anything for you and try and brush you off, say, I want to talk to the watch commander because I
Mhm.
need to fill this report out today. Do not let them turn you away.
Right.
So that on the other note, that's a message that we need to get out.
Right. So educating the public, absolutely. On,
educating the
you know,
public. But with this, then it comes around with the town hall that we had, where again, we have requests of LAPD. And so again, I'm sure it's going to come back to money again. They're going to tell us it's money because they don't have enough officers and they're in the process of recruiting and training, and it takes over a year, you know, to get them in force, and that they just don't have enough police. And I'm sure that's what they're going to say, not enough money for overtime. So they pick their spots where they patrol. And I'm sure that's where it's going to like do a hop and skip and jump right back to. So that being said, I don't know. What do you think? Should we start talking about things to present to the commission for a city budget, maybe?
well, I mean, we're talking about two different things, right? Because we've been talking about the park budget and the rangers.
But it all goes to the city. The commission is the park budget. Talk to the police commission about the police budget.
Mhm.
You know, there's two different commissions. Do we need to maybe plan to send a letter to both commissions?
I think that's probably a good route to take. And I know that the idea of another public safety town hall focusing more on the break-ins and the policing, as opposed to whereas this one focused more on the parks. And those might be us branching off into two different directions. Do you like my visual?
Yeah, right.
And
What I'm
addressing
gonna
the
do
goal.
initially for the break-ins, what we decided at executive board rather than a town hall, so to speak.
Mhm.
Here, probably it'll be after this board meeting because the captain's coming to the board meeting. So I want to see what he has to say.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna do a special public safety meeting that's gonna focus completely on break-ins
Yeah.
and
That seems like-
publicize it. Chris said then publicize it.
Yeah, I think the answer is all of the above. Like, clearly we've identified plenty of issues and at least some of the process with the parks. So that's like, you know, ultimately it's going to take a longer to get pressure applied and some influence, hopefully, towards the park advisory board. But that's a whole different thing in a different, you know, political climate around that than would be for police, right?
Right.
In some ways, it'll probably be easier to get people excited and at least maybe temporarily participating on the police thing. That's something I think we can bring up often. But then again, it's like quantity versus quality. You bring up policing and it'll excite a lot of people, but not necessarily in the best ways and not necessarily people who are going to be like, again, Mel, you were saying you have somebody who wants you to go in guns blazing. It's like, guess what? They have a plan for that, and that's to shut you down completely. There's no reason for
Right.
them to give you the time of day if they're just going to get yelled at, which they're have plenty of experience doing. So you have to be, I mean, you have to know what their game is and play it better. And that's why I'm saying is that right now, when we have a new council member and a new mayor and the chief has just re-upped of LAPD, this is the time where we, you know, temporarily maybe have like there's more eyes on them. So we
Yeah.
go to Moore's office, we go to Mayor Bass's office and go to Tim and say, hey, look, you know, we gave you what you wanted in terms of getting your job. Now, these are the conditions under which, you know, and this is not the first time you've heard these things, but this is what we want you to start working on. Yes, you have a bunch of stuff to work on, but put this on the list.
Yeah.
Let us know how we can help you.
So what
know.
would be the action plan for this? Chris, what would you say would be the action plan as to what would be the path to this?
Well, I would think that we start off with, you know, I would sort of think of it as an episodic kind of adventure where every time you start one, you have to say, you know, previously on Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and we have to remind them of the conversation up to that point. Because again, for the mayor's office and for Tim, to some degree, they either don't or we need to act like they don't know everything that's transpired so far. So we need to bring them up to speed. I mean, this would be, you know, letters or emails or whatever saying, you know, this is where we are, this is what's happened, and we need to keep this momentum. We're asking for specific things to be
Right,
done.
because you saw what happened with my public safety letter last night.
Yeah.
Ray doesn't want stuff going to Tim unless.
Well,
it's-
I don't, well, we need to, I think we need to give them something that they it's hard for them to deflect, because I think the issue, like with the needles, I think the problem is that's already such a gray area in terms of, you know, again, I think that provokes more questions than it answers. The things like with the break-ins and the police response is a lot more direct. Like they've already got a baked in responsibility that they can't deflect to somebody else. They can't tell you, oh, this is a whatever. Like the needles is this jurisdictional and a procedural whatever. And again, if we're asking them to start doing something that they're not already doing, we need to make it impossible for them to give it. Like we need to do so much homework and grunt work for them so that they can't tell us, oh, we're going to have to look into, we don't
Right.
know. You know, with the police situation, that's nothing, they can't wiggle out from under that. Like if
With the
somebody's
police
kicking a door in,
situation, I'm gonna do the public safety special meeting, but my goal is with that is to invite Tim to that meeting.
yeah, and that's the type of thing, again, for his own purposes. I've seen, you know, how involved and how, like, he's doing an awful lot of dancing, obviously, you know, being brand new into the office.
Oh,
But he
yeah.
is really, you know, he's everywhere all the time. And I think this is one of those higher priority sort of things where, you know, it's the type of thing that someone in his position should probably have as a general high priority. But right now, when you have, you know, I mean, homeowners get more attention anyway, but
But
when you
he
have houses
may-
being broken
he may
into,
send Amanda too instead. He may
well,
send.
I mean, yeah, and again, there's only one of them, and the day's only so long.
Right.
But for somebody who was and has been very good about attending meetings, about really participating and engaging. I mean, I know just in his campaign, I had more substantive conversations with him than I ever did with Buscaino, who again was eager to engage me. But like, I think that we have some momentum with Tim, that we should give him the, like, you know, we should set him up so he can knock him down to the greatest extent. So the more we can do to make it easy for them to say yes, or for them to say, okay, let's start working on this, the better, because I've seen what it's like between agencies who have, like, they have their own daily
Right.
agenda stuff that they have to do. You bring them anything new, and just, it's going to be human nature that they will find ways to, you know, make excuses. And, you know, those may be
So-
legitimate, but the
So
more
for
we can do,
LAPD
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
Dan, you have something to say. I can't hear you. The mutes.
Yeah, I had my hand up. I wanted to go back for a minute, Melanie. Somebody said we expect that their complaint will be lack of money, lack of personnel, et cetera. Do you fundamentally disagree with that?
No,
Type of
I know
thinking by the
that's the
police?
problem. That's the problem.
I think it's an extreme problem. I think recruiting is horrifying right now. And I think
but if you can't get,
all this is, if I may,
Brecken Park is like hurting for money right now too.
well, every level of government will always say it is hurting for money, and they are. There's only, you can't give everybody everything over and over and over and expect it to continue forever. There
Mhm.
is a money problem, which means there's a personnel problem, and there's a morale problem,
Right.
which is maybe even more difficult than the money problem. It
Yeah.
seems to me that when we work individually with these police officers, Paul Ulmer and others, that when you're working with them directly, they're fine. But of course, as Chris says, they're strung out. They're doing what they can with limited resources. There are only so many hours in the day. I think that, and this is a scary thing to say because it invites comparisons to vigilanteism, but I don't mean it in that way at all. We're going to be on our own. We're going to be on our own a lot in this whole, as this drama plays out, as the city continues to struggle with funding and with societal problems that it has no capacity to solve. And I'm not sure what to say about this, except I think
Right.
whoever alluded to direct contact and putting appropriate pressure on public officials is probably the main thing that we can do. But appropriate pressure, not just relentlessly
Right.
complaining about lack of service, but John Barbera has said it very well in the past, and Melanie, you did tonight. It's how can we help them help us? I think Angela said it too. How can we help them help us? And that to me is where some of this lies.
Exactly. And so
Maybe a lot of it lies in that arena.
and something was brought to my attention to kind of go off of what you said, Dan, is I had a neighborhood watch block captain contact me today, upset because she has had her eyes on a drug house and her eyes on it and putting herself in danger because Ulmer has been gone, been off, been not available, been doing whatever. She's been sending him all his information, and he's asked her to watch and take pictures and do all of this. Meantime, she feels like she's putting her safety and her livelihood in danger because
That's not
of
her purview. She shouldn't be doing that. That is endangering herself. I mean, if she can do it from afar.
exactly. And I told her to quit doing it. You tell him that he needs to get a narco agent out there to come and sit and observe it. You know, somebody undercover.
Yeah,
but,
John,
you
somebody
know,
undercover.
But it's crazy that, you know,
Yeah.
that's the extreme that it's going to. They're relying too heavily on the citizens versus LAPD themselves. And it all falls back to the needle thing where the citizens are supposed to pick up the needles. They aren't
Well, I mean, I think-
hazmat.
Yeah, well, I mean, but more critically, if you can't get a reliable response to something like a break-in to a property, I mean,
Right.
that's basic, you know, like, then you don't really have police presence. You know, it is what it does. If it doesn't
Right.
respond to that, then you don't have it. And so I'm sure they all know, and they hear all the time about, you know, non-delivery of services and blah, 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 but that's
Right.
a little too basic, you know, that's a little too fundamental to kind of explain away. Then you don't have a police department if someone can just come in my house and take my stuff.
Yeah, and people are scared to go on vacation and everything else now because they're afraid of leaving their home back
And with good reason, you know, if
with
that,
good reason.
and I don't know how to solve that, but that's, I think, again, that you'll be told in other conversations,
Right.
they don't want individual citizens to solve these sorts of problems because you get really, you know, bad, apocryphal kinds of solutions to them. And so they should have some sense of, like, you know, wanting to put a fire out when it's still manageable.
So with LAPD, our action plan with this, what would it be though? How could we address this out of this town hall? What would be the thing for us to do? Angela?
Well, I think the idea to have a spin-off town hall, ad hoc, whatever you want to call it, to address this issue is probably a good one to keep the conversation going. But as far as action plans, I mean, you know, we've all brought up helping them do their job by advocating for more funding. So figuring out whatever path we need to take to do that. But I think also increasing public awareness, making sure people know what to do if a break-in occurs, including filing a police report. So at least we have the statistics to support that this really is a problem that's happening in our community right now, so that they can't just look at their numbers and say, well, we only have 3 break-ins when we all know there's been 8. Increasing neighborhood watches in the various, bless you, communities, like Tarragona's is pretty active, but I don't know, you know, what's immediately
Taper's
adjacent.
active, Mary Star. Mary Star's active. Taper that I run is active. It's like 600 homes.
Like we could have a link on our website that has all the neighborhood watches for each of the different areas. Some educational materials to go along with it. Do we? We might. I'm sorry. I don't.
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay,
On
I'll
our
check
website. But I think at one point I had talked with public safety, as you recall, John. One of my thoughts was to invite the block captains to in our area to the, the different neighborhood watches that are in Northwest to a public safety meeting and just talk to them about issues in the area.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a good idea. And they are all right. I've just never seen this before. Sorry.
Like the Vista del Oro,
Mhm.
the Holy Trinity, the Taper, I'm trying to think what other one would be in our area. Mary Starr, I would have her come anyway, because she kind of crosses over into our area, Northwest.
Yeah, Miraflores,
But-
Maryland, Leland Park. There's a bunch of them. They're all in
Yeah.
here. And I think that's a really good idea, inviting all the watch captains to a public safety meeting.
And just have a special public safety meeting for that, just have it just focused on that for one of our public safety meetings. It won't have to be a special one, just that'll be what the agenda is about for that night. Public safety.
Maybe,
John.
sorry.
You have
John,
a hands up.
Look, here's the bottom line. You can sit here and go through all of this stuff. They're not going to listen to us. And I found out from the police department, they get $4 billion a year budget.
yeah, they
LA
do.
does. And they get a $4 billion budget, and that gets, put around for everybody. So when I sit at the assistance league 2 times in a row, and then at 50 minutes to an hour, nobody showed up. There could have been a break-in. Of course, I'm there protected. I'm going to go protected because I can handle it. So, but when I call and they're telling me, yeah, they got the call, but they're not going to dispatch was anybody hurt? Did anybody do this? And I go, what about if somebody broke in for real and then started walking out with this stuff? You're telling me he goes, yeah, unless somebody gets hurt or they're beating somebody up or anything. I'm going like, okay. So then when we call them back and, they don't come and they say it's a false alarm. And then you send me a bill for $314 and you never showed up. I'm sorry. I mean, so you showed up 2 hours after the fact and you
That's
still
great.
send me a bill. I the second time when it was the one in December, I called them and said, don't even bother. Tell them not to show up. Nothing's wrong, because I saw what happened. So I went in. But when Ulmer tells me that, yeah, unless someone's going to get hurt, they're not going to dispatch anybody. So I'm sorry, but can you tell me why then we do have a police force? How do they know that, it's the same thing that happened when the jewelry store right next door to the post office was robbed. They never went. Those guys walked off with a bunch of stuff because it was just a break-in. So I guess to the police, it's okay for them to, let them steal everything. But in a home, it starts with the people who own the building, who own the house. They got to call it in,
Right.
like Angela
And
says. If you
with a
don't call
home
it in,
break-in, I learned that they won't come. Like, say if I'm in Cabo and somebody's breaking into my house and my alarms are going off, and say my daughter calls or somebody calls, a lot of times it won't be a priority one, sirens come type thing. They'll eventually come, but not right away, because nobody's in the house threatened or injured or life dependent or anything else inside if the
Right.
house is vacant.
That's
And
That's
that's
right.
where
way
they can
forever. My
clean and
parents-
clean and know about it, and they'll do nothing.
That's been that way forever. My parents' house got robbed when I was like 10, and they had to leave the house the way it was. Nobody was in the house. We waited for hours and hours and hours before they finally came to fingerprint and check the house. And I mean, they didn't even do anything. So that's been that way forever, because there is no injury and they don't feel it's life threatening.
I think you're right, Kelly. And I must say that we're nearing something here that I think needs to be included. We're getting close to it. It's the idea of reporting everything. I know that our district attorney right now is hiding behind statistics that are lying. He's convinced himself that smash and grab robberies, well, they're doing something about that. To the credit of the LAPD and the sheriffs, they are doing something about smash and grabs and follow home robberies. And that's a good thing. They've apparently busted a bunch of people in the last few days or week or so. And that's good and that's impressive. But I'm pretty convinced, and from what I hear from people in business and on the radio and stuff like that, a lot of stuff goes on that is simply never reported because of the frustration that we've identified here, or that we know about, because people figured nobody will come, they won't be prosecuted. The $950 rule pretty much precludes anything that I report being acted upon, unless it's a huge amount of jewelry or goods like that. So that says to me that it is vital that all these crimes be reported. And
Right, and that
it's
$900.
like if you call 311 about any city function, of sidewalk or a tree limb or a piece of a sofa on the sidewalk, it may not get taken care of immediately, but it is on the record. They
Yep.
keep records of all these reports, all these calls. They have to, they're by law apparently. And they know how many calls there are about sofas on the sidewalk and stuff. But if they don't hear about a home burglary or shoplifting in a store or anything like that, if they don't hear about it, they don't have to think about it. Therefore, the crime rate is not as bad as we seem to think it is. So
The other thing I found out
reporting
too,
is vital.
right, with reporting for calling LAPD, when you call them, and this is something that is not well known either, and I found out, because it's easier to trace back your call if you say they didn't show, or it took them 2 hours and the people are gone, or complain, or they came and they did nothing. You have reference of who those officers were based on that call when they can locate it, because then they'll know who it is. And what you do is every time you call in, ask for the incident number. And they have to give you an incident number.
It's like a council file.
Yes.
Good. I like
Angela?
that incident number.
So in the interest of kind of steering us in a what can we do about this, maybe compiling all this information and making a more prominent link on our website so that the public can like click on our page, see how they can find their neighborhood watch, report a crime, what to do if your house has been broken into. I don't know, I'm just trying to I'm thinking out loud, but as far as how to make this discussion productive, what can we do? I think providing information as a neighborhood council is probably the easiest.
I think
and
maybe out of that
first thing-
special meeting that we do, maybe out of that special meeting that we do, put together that for that special
That's
meeting
a
to go on the
great
website,
idea, Melanie.
input of everybody. That
Mhm.
I think that's where that could come from.
Perfect.
So the special meeting,
Special
on
meeting,
break-ins,
what Angela just said, very important. And I would add,
break-ins, and collaborate for website,
and
website
our old
info.
school newsletter,
Yeah,
on
do a special edition. Crime
breaking.
Watch.
Yeah,
that'll go,
$5,000.
that'll go over well.
Yeah, $5,000 a pop now for our newsletter.
Well, we're sitting on 20 some thousand over, some money over and above the neighborhood purpose grants and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So let's
6,000 left.
well, enough for a special edition newsletter.
Break-ins.
It doesn't
I
have to
do
be
think-
that, but that kind of thing for people who aren't tuned in to Neighborhood Watch and the internet for that matter, but who
Yeah.
who treasure getting real mail. I think our newsletter makes a difference.
I wonder if even doing a one sheet type thing, how much that would be to send out.
Not as much. It's probably more than you'd think, but
Yeah.
sure, that can be done. a folding, you know, like,
Yeah, I don't
Triangles.
think a single sheet is significantly less than, I don't know what the number is, like 4 or 6 or whatever, complete pages. I
Oh,
don't think
really?
it's a small, well, I don't think that would be the savings you would think, because the setup costs for printing and that sort of stuff would be pretty consistent. But I do think that that's, you know, whether it's some kind of mailer, but I think there's obvious, you know, social media potential there, as far as, you know, posts and videos, the type of thing that, you know, because it's kind of it's a real emotional kind of story. That's the sort of thing that usually gets pretty good traction. And you know, our social media followership has been growing like literally daily. We get at least a few new followers almost every day, and I think it's up, you know, 5% from last week or something like that. So we have potential there as well. It's the type of thing that could get shared. And if people know that, let's say that there's, I mean, I think the public, if we have special meetings, have agenda items at board meetings, and social media that all point back to the Public Safety Committee, which is the
Yeah.
recurring meeting. I think that's one thing we can do, is strengthen the significance of the Public Safety Committee, whereby, you know, these things don't have to be done as a special edition or as a special meeting.
Right.
If they know that you talk about this regularly. Also promote the idea of the neighborhood watches, but also, you know, do some things like talking about like emphasizing reporting, and you know, maybe go through some bullet points and details about, this is how you file a police report, this is what
Right.
you know what you ask for, and all this can be put into a graphic pretty easily. And I think that's something we can do quickly and almost free.
Yeah.
But that will circulate. That's something that people will,
And get that on social media circulating too.
right, and that's the sort of thing that in the Facebook pages, you know, pretty much all of them, Bay City's Crime Watch and the, you know, San Pedro page and stuff like that, that will be a conversation starter for sure.
So I think it's my understanding what Ray wanted to come out of this was some action stuff, like a letter or how we were going to address some of this stuff. And so this is good for LAPD, but then we morph into Rec and Park. How do we address what's going on with them? I think with them, we almost need to send a letter of things that we would like to see changed.
I think even direct, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be a change of membership because of a new administration, but I think some direct communication to the mayor's office about the people we'd like to see on the park advisory board, you know, asking for changes.
Well, I don't think that really is going to help, because the park advisory board is not going to change any of this. The park advisory board is basically support staff for Peck Park. It's Peck Park.
Oh, no,
only.
I meant the
The
citywide
park
one.
advisory board.
What's the name of the one that
Board of
sets policy?
Commissioner.
Oh, the commission. Thank you,
The
commission. That's what I meant.
commission, yeah. That
Because that would be an
commission,
opportunity for the mayor's office to look at the personnel there, you know, maybe see some people, because I mean, I work with the harbor commissions in LA and Long Beach, and usually with a new mayor, they will be looking at people that they already know, whose talents they're already familiar with.
so would
who
you
can
say
affect some
send a letter
change.
to the mayor then?
I think so, because that's the person who picks that commission. That's, you know, I would like go to her office and say,
And
hey,
what
look,
would, and what would we say to her?
we'd like you to reconsider the membership of the park commission. You know, I don't know if we can come up with some people we'd like to suggest, but say we've identified these ongoing issues with parks. We know that this is where policy is set, and we want you to set some time aside to be, you know, to do an audit maybe, or to do a review of, you know, the past policy making and what you might be able to do going forward, you know.
Okay.
Because that's luckily there's, I mean, not that she's easy to get to, but we know exactly that there is one person who gets to decide. I mean, I guess they have to go before city council approval, but there's one person who gets to pick these commissioners, and this seems like as good a time as any to go directly to her.
Melanie, everybody's hands up. I don't know if
Okay,
everybody
yeah.
intends to.
Dan, go ahead.
Well, John and
Oh, okay. John? John? Go ahead. You're
You're
muted.
muted.
Yeah, sorry, I had a phone call I had to take about the election, so sorry.
So your
Um,
hand isn't up?
No, I didn't take it down from last time,
Oh,
sorry.
oops.
Okay.
Angela?
So in going over the minutes and even in the meeting itself, the thing that struck me the most is the number of park rangers and the qualifications that it takes to become a park ranger.
Yeah.
And both the rangering and the law enforcement being combined into that single role, and funding being the overlying concern of everything. And it kind of got me thinking, like, is there a possibility of having a mid-level security people that aren't law enforcement? They're just there to keep the parks safe, where you
Well,
don't
they're
have to have a
saying
fully
that
trained.
they have these security like personnel for parks
Mhm.
that are part of LAPD. They're security officers for parks.
Okay,
That's where it becomes kind of funny and a joke, but not really. Is there's 2 of them for all the parks in LA.
okay.
So you've got this guy that comes down here that's like managing like 400 parks.
And they're employed by LAPD, but they're
Yeah.
not police officers?
They are police officers, but
police
they're
officers.
security officers for LAPD for parks.
Who've been fully,
That's their
like,
assignment.
the police academy and everything?
Yeah, yeah.
And carry weapons.
But
See, I'm kind of
there's
like
there's
thinking of
two,
some,
two
Okay.
for all of. So, they could be all the way at Griffith Park or be all the way down here. And
Hmm.
I have never once seen them.
Well, I'm not even sure really the benefit of that, because if there's an actual crime, we're gonna call the police.
It's kind
That's
of a
correct.
joke, actually.
That's correct.
So, but what if there was someone whose job it was to like respond to larger events that are unpermitted where a crime's not happening, but there's a dicey situation? Like, what if we had security, like the ponytail guy, right? He wasn't successful because he had no authority behind him.
Right. And
people
that's what
bullied
I
him out of
asked
his
her. And she
job.
said, that's what I asked her at the meeting. If you read the minutes, I asked about somebody actually being of authority and going around doing that and looking at the bigger parties and monitoring
Right,
them
and
and
she's-
all of that. And she said, oh, there's no money for that. or
Yeah, we have no
personnel.
money, which brings us back to the thing that was recommended during the town hall was we need to go to the Board of Commissioners and advocate for the budget of the parks so that there is the money to increase
Right.
security or whatever. So we start there, right? There's 2 a month. They're on Thursday mornings. I work, but can somebody go to a Board of Commissioners meeting and maybe listen in, get the lay of the land, figuring out like what's happening there, report back, and then we can come up with an action plan for what we can do with that information.
That sounds good. Okay. Very good, Angela.
That is good, Angela.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate the compliment.
Um,
Thursday morning.
It was explained to me that all the rangers for the area of the city where we live, which extends once again up to essentially La Brea and the 10 freeway. That's the northwest corner of it.
Mhm.
And it's from there all the way down to here. There are 2 rangers.
Yep.
Full
This is-
time, full time.
Full
And-
time.
And everybody, all the park employees meet, at least in terms of those guys, and probably a lot of the maintenance people and landscaping people meet at Ken Malloy Park every morning, where
Yep.
that's one of their regional headquarters.
Yeah.
And they're sent out, they're issued their work assignments and they're sent out to do it. And the police, the rangers or the security people respond as needed, as calls come in, but it could be 25 miles away and an hour by car. So,
Yep.
it is insane. It is insane. I know there's controversy about arming police at all, let alone rangers and security guards. But if these, as I said at one of our meetings before, if these folks, these rangers and security people are trained at the academy, they have all the knowledge of being a police officer. They're expected to enforce the law,
like a
but they-
police officer.
but they have no weapon to do so.
Yeah.
There's no incentive to wade
Do
into
the
anything more than a crying child. You know, anything beyond that, who's going to risk their life or career? Who would do that?
Right.
It's a huge societal problem. It's really,
That's,
it's almost more than
And
we
that's-
can deal
And
with.
Joe at our meeting was very emphatic about that. We did a neighborhood council file that we supported this when Joe initiated it. It was 10-3 when we voted. And the thing is with this, we supported this because of the very thing that you just said. You can't expect them to do the work of a police officer and not arm them when they're going in and endangering their lives.
right, but when I went in more depth with it, they're leaving the Rangers. The Rangers can't keep them because they get a job 2 months, 3 months later down the road. The LAPD hires them at 65,000 a year.
Or the sheriff department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the sheriff's department, and they got a job and they carry a gun. I mean, the bottom line is, why do you send somebody to do a 6-month course of training and you give them a taser? I mean, you're gonna, the guy's got a shotgun and you're going up with a taser or some mace. It's not hard to figure out who's going to win that battle.
Exactly. Everybody that wants to do that and say that needs to go do the what would you do for the police academy, because going through that full simulator thing and you're put up against of choosing a taser, a gun, or a pepper spray, and you're in a live simulator situation where you speak like a cop, it reacts to what you're saying and all that, the simulator, and it literally, you're put in a situation where you have to play cop and make decisions. I got shot because I picked the wrong thing. But it's
Yeah.
not a fail. It's just that and Mona, she pepper sprayed somebody that she should have shot. So it's just kind of one of those things where you learn and you see what decisions the police go through to figure out what they're going to use, no matter
That's-
what.
That's the thing, but that's the other thing you got to look at. Here is LA spending the same amount of money on a ranger. Now, let's say there's 3 of us. I'm a ranger, he's a ranger, and he's going to be a cop. But we're still doing the same 6-month course. We're doing everything. Halfway through the course, they're giving us guns. We're going out on this. We do patrols. They teach us how to shoot the gun and everything. But then when it's all said and done, you're a police officer and you get to carry pepper spray and a taser. So, I mean, if they're thinking that the parks are just as safe, well, I don't think they were that safe when you got 2 people dead at Peck Park.
John, I think you're absolutely right. And something has just occurred to me. It seems to me in terms of our response to what happened at Peck Park and everything involved here is we need to support the people in the departments.
Right.
The Deanne Dedmans and the Paul Ulmers and all the people that we have met along the trail here. They are dedicated people who want the city to work because it makes their job easier, frankly. And they know it's what their constituents want, but they're hamstrung in every which way. I don't know this. I've never met this Joe guy who I guess is the regional in charge guy of Parks and Rec or whatever.
Joe Lucarelli.
Yeah, I've never met him, and I
He's a good guy.
have no opinion about him. But if he's the guy in charge of this area, I want to be communicating with him on behalf of all the other people we have talked to, Deanne and on down, to say, here's what we observe about what needs to happen. What can we do, Joe? And I know we've asked them this already. We've sent letters.
Right.
I think we're almost past letters. I think the action item is to try to engage people more, to send out information that people can use in terms of an emergency. Here, let me say something shocking. if there is a problem at Peck Park, call the police. That's the answer to that.
Yeah,
But if Peck Park is a crap hole of trash and weeds and stuff like that, that's an entirely different subject. But the great broken window theory of crime and neighborhood degeneration, you gotta pick the weeds. You gotta
Yeah.
pick up the broken glass from the lawns. You gotta maintain the place. So I believe, should be hitting the city hard and heavy in the finance department. You're not spending enough to maintain parks. You're not
Yeah.
spending enough in terms of
Exactly.
personnel, and certainly not in terms of facilities. And I go back to what I've harped on for
But-
10 years.
you're right. And then but here we,
In my last year here on the board, I've been saying this forever. The city has enough money to do things. The city has enough money to fix things, but they don't have a penny to take care of them in between.
right.
Maintenance is, with the exception of our little Harbor Highlands Park here, which I am overjoyed almost every weekday to see city people there cleaning up that park. That's great. That's fantastic. That's what should happen in every square foot of every park. It obviously doesn't, but I'm glad it happens here. But that is, and that's really not the kind of maintenance I'm talking about. There's been a broken tree limb at Harbor Highlands Park for months.
Yeah,
It's been reported, it was taped off for a month, and I can't even tell now if they got rid of it or it blew away in the
get rid
wind.
of it. It's still sitting there with tape around it.
It's still, well, no, the tape may have been moved. Yeah, exactly right. That's the kind of thing which is unacceptable and which we really need to hit the city about. But it's, Joe will say, I would love to do it. I don't have anybody to do it this month. I can do it next month, unless, and if it's a bleeding emergency, sure, they take care of it.
But let me,
Overall maintenance always takes the first hit in the budget.
but you know what? Here's a good, we don't have money for the Rangers to get them this and that. But you know what? But we were able to send, how much did it cost, Melanie, when the shooting at the park with all the people that were there that came, sheriffs, police officers, Long Beach PD, SWAT, all of these players.
What's the sound? Somebody's got sound in the background.
It had to be $25,000 an hour. John.
Well, from what I understood, it was like a couple of million, $2-3 million it cost us.
There you go.
So you spend $2-3 million to have all these people there, but you couldn't spend another 50,000-60,000 a year to have extra people.
Absolutely.
That just, if you're paying them 50,000 a year, okay? If you want to take 10 of them.
Yeah,
That's $500,000. I mean, that's what, $500,000. I'm sorry, where are we at here with this? Or that's 250,000, sorry. So you've got this money that you can do out of that 3 million, 4 million you spent to have this whole thing just for a few hours. You could have taken $1 million and added more people.
John, what are you talking about? Where are you talking about?
Peck Park.
What?
Peck Park had more cops and fire department.
When they responded.
Yeah, they just
That's a different budget than park rangers.
Well,
No,
exactly.
but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you got the money to spend to have all these people there.
Right.
When you could have spent $1 million a year more, $2 million a year more, and had the actual more policing and,
Just like that working group thing that I was going to for CD15, when I went to the meetings that they were doing, they were going to take Joe's extra money that he had out of his gravy train fund before he left. And they were going to buy security cameras that got thrown out of their budget for Peck Park for COVID. They were going to buy security cameras for them because they have no cameras at that park. So they were going to buy security cameras for the rec area and around the area of the park. And that was supposed to be budgeted originally and got kicked. Well, that was the big thing that Gabby was going to get for Peck Park. And that was the #1 priority. That and also possibly security for like Sundays or whatever. You know what she got? Zero. They took all that extra money for Joe and put it into overtime for LAPD.
And yet at the same time, we're all saying LAPD needs more money too, like.
Yeah,
it's-
to go
it's a
patrol the
tough one.
park, basically, is what it was for overtime for
I
LAPD.
sure would like to see
For
a
the
Sunday
ATM, for
staff
the
down there.
ATVs and the horses and all of that,
Mhm.
that they had going around there.
Well, it seems like an action item for us.
Yep,
Is to-
so how would
is-
we do this? Budget for Rec and Park?
Absolutely. Hit the city, hit the city up for more money for recreation and parks. But to finish off what I was trying to say clumsily earlier, hit them hard for stuff that'll make a difference in the parks, with the understanding that
maintenance?
like maintenance and programming.
Yeah, just staff. I mean, if we
That-
don't necessarily need a bunch of armed rangers, if we have
And
staff
preventative
on
stuff
site,
like cameras
call
at the
police.
parks. Preventative,
Yeah,
preventative
passive
security.
security. Passive security.
preventative security.
just
Or
people
passive
there.
security, is that what you call it? Passive?
Sounds right to me.
And it's just staff in the park on Sundays,
Mhm.
staff at the park when people are there, so that if there is a situation, they can reach out to the people who are there, the police and the rangers. But there's someone dedicated at the park to do that.
So the other thing should be staffing, but as well as, one of the things we said over and over is revising the permit process. They don't have to, I don't get this on an honor system. So on my honor, I will do one, and on my honor, I won't. I've got 50 people I'm bringing to the park, and I may or may not get a permit and just show up. And
That's a
there needs to
problem.
be somebody watching the pot, instead of it boiling, there needs to be somebody checking those permits and checking. And there needs to be a penalty for showing up with a large group.
So that's more staff. What you're advocating is more staff.
Permit enforcement.
Correct.
We need to join, like we talked with Ray, we need to join them and work with them. And if you remember, Deanne Denman said that there's nothing we could do this year but we could start working on next year's budget with them. And the bottom line is we need more money into the Rex and Park. And that's where, if and I mean more money, but they got to do diligent with the money. They can't just sit there, oh, we got more money, and says we can buy more desks and chairs for the people that are working in. No, we need more money so you can bring in more rangers, that you can bring in more security, whatever it takes, make better permit systems. Don't let anybody in the park if they don't have a permit. But if you're going to go, well, we think he's going to have, you know what? It's just it's the old adage where, if this is not broke, don't fix it. Well,
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem, okay? Because if you have one shootout, there's more to come. It's not, all of a
Especially in
sudden.
the element of our country right now.
Yeah. Look, everybody, I was listening to the news today and they're going like, well, you know what? Unemployment, Joe Biden says unemployment. You know what? Tell Joe Biden to go back in the garage and hide somewhere. It's not. Unemployment is still a big issue. They say it's not, but yet when you drive, you still see signs out there, help wanted,
Well, part of the problem is, John, I heard today from one place that's trying to hire here in Pedro. They said they can't get anybody to apply. A lot of places have the sign up. Nobody wants to work.
Oh, let me go a little step further. Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. because somebody said a while back they want $20 an hour for the work they do. So what did Carl's Jr. do? I just read about this, and I don't, they wouldn't say where it's at. The drive-through is automated.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
going to be happening more and more. That's
That
true.
is what you're gonna see. So if, you know, and if people don't get their butts out there and start getting their jobs, and they're gonna be pushed out.
Yeah,
And-
Well-
and somebody just posted that Hamburger Habit up on the hill.
Yeah,
Your order taking is automated there too now. They don't have people there
yeah.
at the, you
Well,
push it in on your
we're-
own.
We're going the other way. We're hoping to unautomate Peck Park and get another staff member or two in on the weekends. We can't solve the employment numbers or even the direction the country is going. We need to work on our little
Yeah.
corner of the world here. And I think every idea I've heard here this evening has merit. The question for us is how to convey what we're
Right.
feeling and saying now to people that can make a difference. And by make a difference, I just mean have the power to allocate money or to change policy just 2 degrees to make
Right,
things
so
happen
that's
more
when that
effectively and more
commission
quickly.
is gonna come in.
We need to maintain a good relationship with the council office, which kind of fell down, not our fault, but the last couple of years, that's been a problem with Council 15. We need to maintain that relationship. We need to support our hardworking city employees who we know for a fact work hard. And we need to work to get more money to, as John says, to spend effectively, not just for anything, but, you know,
Right,
let us figure out how to pinpoint it. And we don't, you know, we're all great, we're all wonderful, and we're all smart, but we don't know what we're talking about because we don't know how the city really functions. We have suspicions, but we don't really know. And so I think we need to convey our wishes as sensibly laid out as possible. Convey it as strident, not stridently, but strongly and repetitively enough that it begins to get through to people. I think that the fact that there is a new mayor who is laser focused on everything but what we're talking about, it can be helpful. You know, they're trying to accommodate stakeholders of all stripes in the city, I think. The council office is a resource for us if we finesse it properly. And the employees in these departments, in recreation and parks, and the police department, the fire department, can be resources for us. I think that we've been told in the past that we are a sane neighborhood council. I think some others have caught up to us in terms of being thoughtful and forward thinking without being crazed. But we do a good job of human relations with the people we are asking to work for us, to provide stuff for us. We do a good job of it. We need to continue that. I think letters are a good idea. I think the social media that Chris handles so well and others, that's excellent. That needs to be part of it. It's all part of a piece. It's all part of a piece.
so Dan,
And-
who would the letter go to?
Well,
Who should
I'm
we
not,
let
I want to
write a
know
letter?
what the letter's going to say first.
Yeah, I just-
Presumably, dear Councilman McOsker, hey, thanks for catering to us so well when you needed our vote. Now that you're in office, and the trick is to not be threatening, to not be,
Right.
oh, you owe it to us. The fact is, nobody owes anybody anything that we don't work for ourselves. And I, if I were to sit down right now and write a letter, I don't know what I'd say. I need to think about it. But
See, because
clearly, we need to be in
a letter
communication.
to Tim, I know for a fact Ray's gonna want, because he's
You know-
already laid this out last night. If we send something to Tim, we're gonna have to know what the solution is before we send the letter.
Well, that's very
gonna
elegant.
have to be able
Ray
to
Ray
give
has spent a
him
career,
Ideas, and solutions.
Melanie, Ray, God bless him, has spent his career figuring out solutions before they're even spoken.
Right,
And that's fine. That's fine. But I'm not here to dance to his tune or anybody else's. If we don't want to do anything stupid or ineffective or mean or thoughtless, but we are perfectly capable of coming up with an agenda for a letter or for a meeting or for
Right.
any number of actions and executing them.
yeah,
And the letter, whatever we write, it depends on what we're requesting.
yeah,
Because some of the stuff we're talking about should go straight to the commissions. Recreation and Parks Commission, the Police Commission, the Fire Commission.
The people who pay those salaries for the people that we need.
Right,
yeah,
precisely. And I'll sign off here just by saying we should write different kinds of letters for different to different
Right.
groups or purposes.
exactly.
And it'll be a series of letters. And I don't propose to write them tonight, but I think this meeting is kind of, do we more or less agree that we need to deal effectively with people who can help us achieve our goals?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm double raising my hand. I've
Thank
I've
you.
got a virtual and a physical hand
Yeah.
up.
Angela,
I
Done.
think honestly, a good place to start would be writing a letter to Tim McCosker saying we as the Northwest, the ad hoc committee, the public safety town hall of the Northwest Neighborhood Council want to take this on as an issue. Is there someone in your office that we can communicate with on a regular basis to develop a game plan for how we can help the parks get more money? Because he's a
I
big guy.
tried that with the needle thing and I got shot down. My letter got pulled.
Now,
last
our thing is what we should do is Tim's getting involved with everything. And I think we should focus on Tim helping us with this matter. Tim is our CD15, okay, or as he'd like to call it, our 1-5. So let's get Tim. We do this. We write something down, but we get with him. Have him come to one of our meetings, another ad hoc meeting when we have.
Maybe schedule another ad hoc and ask Tim to come.
And
Yeah.
let's have Tim come and we can give him all these points and views and stuff. And then let him say, what do you think, Tim? We want to help. We want to work with the police. We want to work with Parks and Rec. We need more rangers. We need more this, but they're not doing it. So Tim, how do you feel about this whole situation? I mean, Tim's a smart guy. He's got a lot of stuff. Maybe he can click on to something else and we can put this letter together and send it to him. He might give us clues, but we need Tim's help. Okay. And that's where we're going to get, I think, a lot more done by pushing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think there's a difference between this and what was brought up at the executive meeting last night, because this has an entire series of planning meetings and then a town hall, which Tim attended. And now we're making recommendations out of that town hall. This has
Right.
gone through more stages than what do we do about the needles in one meeting. I think we
But
can make a really case for action here.
I think the point that I was making though is the letter's got to be more than asking for him to assign somebody. We've got to identify the issues and all of that and
That-
lay
that's-
out the letter.
That's exactly right, Melanie. And I think that's what Ray is
Mhm.
actually saying. And I agree with him. We need to be as specific and positive and interactive as we can be, whatever we write. It's not a letter of demand. It's not a letter of concession. It's a letter of outreach, asking to partner with these various bodies and people to try to
Right.
make the city better.
So can anybody go to the Board of Commissioners meeting on February
Yes.
16th? Because that might be a good
February
place to start. Just go and figure out what's going on.
That's
What they-
Recreation and Parks.
What time
Yes.
is it at?
It's at 9:30 on the first and
Now-
Thursday of every month. First and
And
third
is that,
Thursday.
because it's two different commissions. It's the one that hears things and then passes it on to the big one.
There's
like-
there's the main board, so I can
I wonder which one's the main one, because that's the one we want, I think.
there's the
'Cause
Board
there's-
of Commissioners meeting that meets on those dates, and then there's two smaller commission task force meetings. I'm
Oh,
talking
okay,
about the
what we
main
want the
one.
actual meetings and not the
Yes.
task force.
And that you can join in over the phone, and I can screenshot this from the website. I Googled it. I found it like while I was sitting here talking to you guys.
Okay, so
um,
it's Thursday.
So the next one, based on my calendaring skills, should be February 16th at 9:30 in the morning.
Okay,
So I don't know if you want to attend that, try to see what's happening there.
yeah.
Get
It's
an
still
idea.
a-
I can get up and try and log into that and try and see what's going on.
Okay. Is anyone else able to do it with her? So we have like two sets of ears, or?
Let me tell you on the 16th, that's, are we talking about the Port Commission?
We are talking about the Board of Commissioners for LA Rec and Parks.
Okay, because the 16th is also the Port is doing a
Yeah.
special meeting for, I forgot what it was. It starts with a C on, I can't think of it.
For the, it's for the community plan.
So,
the
I
port.
mean, but
Oh.
yeah, I don't know what my schedule's like right now. I can't.
Well,
I'm not-
I don't know mine either, but I will try to
Okay, cool.
listen in with.
I will be
Where
teaching.
where is the meeting? Does it say?
It's over the
It's
phone.
online. Just
Okay.
sign in online.
But after.
They have a
after-
Zoom link usually for it.
After March
Do they have
1st,
a
that'll,
Zoom link?
It says you call in, hold on, I lost the.
okay, well, it's on their Rec and
You-
Parks
the meetings
website.
Yeah, the meetings can be heard live over the telephone through the council phone system by calling one of the following numbers, and then
Okay,
there's. a
so you
list.
can
Oh,
listen.
okay.
Okay,
So you have
That's
to
a s-
call in and,
that's a start. Listen to it,
Okay.
see how they operate,
Yeah, see what they
see how
do.
many, see how many of their agenda items they get through and what amount of time.
Um,
what would be
how
great
long
is
would
to call in on my home phone and I can record it on my cell.
Okay, I wonder how to find out about when their budget is determined and when we need to get moving on this. Like
That,
if we
that
want to,
thought- well, for this year, it's really over. Deanne Dedman said
It's
that
over.
so
it-
like,
it's not specific, it's not over because there's a later revision of the budget. I mean, we could
Right.
probably still send in letters,
okay,
but if we
but
want to
this is
get.
the budget that starts this fiscal year, which
July
usually is,
1,
Yeah,
July
Summer?
1, yeah.
July 1st, yeah.
There-
okay,
It's
I
already,
wonder if Rec and Park,
got it.
it's
the other
been pro-
thought
it's
is,
been proposed,
they,
they just haven't revised it yet.
I see.
I wonder if, and I'll go deep diving here later tonight. I wonder if there's a CIS file for the budget for Rec and Park.
Um, n- it-
Well, she said there,
It's a
she
good
said last
question.
time to us that there is something that they have that is put in. I don't know if it's a CIF, but I know Deanne Dedman said that they were putting it in already.
Right. they're
In
re-
August,
making their budgetary
September, they were
request in
doing that
August,
already.
yeah.
So
The
that's
city
why
budget,
she told us it was too late for this year.
the city budget is online. You can look it up in chapter and
Yeah.
verse, page by page. You can see their budget for light bulbs if you want.
Oh,
And it's
God.
not enough, may I say. So, so it's online. We can find that. I spent a couple of hours looking at at the Parks Department budget. And there's a lot of money, but sure doesn't seem like enough. Anyway, I would say for us, our desire to have the city help us and for us to help the city is sort of an ongoing year-round project.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Certainly,
it's not,
certainly a big dollar item like the rebuilding the Peck Park pool, that's a decade-long project maybe. But it starts by
but
starting.
you know what the Peck Park pool, we might get Janice Hahn involved. She just helped them get 2 new pools done. One in Wilmington, and I think they'd one over here too.
Oh, wow.
So
I'm not sure how
Kelly's
county.
had her hand up for a while. Kelly, is your
Sorry.
hand up?
Sorry,
or-
Kelly.
Oh, no, you know what? I answered, sorry.
Okay,
I was saying we needed to write letters to the people who directly affect the money.
yep,
Right.
okay,
Tim
So-
McOsker and his 14 colleagues.
exactly. We
The
can
other-
also email the commissioners. Remember, at the wrap.commission.
Mhm.
Dot or LAcity.org.
LAcity.org.
So that also might be a way to kind of ask them some information about how we could like put in a request that they consider budgetary increase,
Yeah.
how we would go about doing that
Agendas.
for,
Oh, yeah, here's a link to the agendas.
Yeah, it's all online. That's for sure.
Whoa, 2016.
They're,
that's how old it is
they're
online.
They're online. They're just not necessarily current. Okay,
No, there's
Yeah.
the current ones too. Here's one from this week,
good.
or this month, I mean.
From this month.
Yeah,
So LAFD, they didn't
General
show up. Park Rangers. We got all that information.
they have a whole
and
agenda
then-
item for neighborhood council comments.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, then.
I enjoy good sleuthing.
I wonder if we
Hello.
asked some ahead of time.
When are we meeting again? Because I need to.
Well, that's gonna be coming up next to discuss. When do you
Okay.
think we can meet again? Because we have board meeting is the 13th, public safety is the 23rd. We have on the 27th is our candidate forum for elections. Victor was telling me that basically a lot of the days that are open for the Zoom not being used are like Fridays.
I'd like
I'm
to
like-
pretend I have a social life, but really I'm just tired. on
Yeah, or pretend that my weekends are free sometimes, but and then we get into this like kind of like quandary of, are we allowed to use Zoom still in March when we go back to have to meet in person probably after March 1st?
John Barbera, was it you that said no?
yeah, they won't. I've been dealing with that too,
I
Melanie.
read different stuff. I received something today that talks about some sort of revision to AB 22 something that might give us a choice. And we have to update the Zoom payment for the Zoom account to pay the $200 and budget it and all of that. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not sure. Josh is coming to the meeting on the 13th.
Well,
I'm
here-
gonna have a lot of questions for him.
Here's one thing the city clerk said. As of February 1st, they lifted that.
March 1st. Oh,
No,
February 1st?
February 1st, they lifted everything that there is, you don't have to ask anybody for vaccination card or anything. It is not necessary. I just got off the phone a little while ago with Michael because I had to talk to him about him being at the meeting for the, because of the elections and all that. And I said, do you need to have cards inspect? He goes, nope, they lifted it. They told us we don't have to do that anymore. There's no asking. So the lifting, that's one thing that's good. The second thing, talking to Octaviano, they have no idea yet with the hybrid, but and I don't think they're going to do it now because he was, like he said, they've already put an in-house in person. So the hybrid said, you know, they're not going to spend the money. If anything, you're going to want us to do it.
The neighborhood council, what I'm getting the gist of is they're trying to get it where, like, committee meetings and stuff, you can still stay, but your general meetings are in person if you choose to. And that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they just want everybody to go. All the hospitals right now are
we will
super
have
low.
to pay for the Zoom out of our neighborhood council budget. It's $200.
Yeah.
Which we budgeted already. We would just have to pay for the Zoom account.
Yeah, that's it. You know,
But whether that's going to happen or not is still up in the air. I mean, we're going to be like, oh, dark 30, like, oh, gee, you have to be in person on the March.
And that's what it's going to boil to, is if you're going to,
like, right before the meeting, we'll be like, oh, hell, we have to go to Peck Park. Problem is, Peck Park, that's another problem. So they made us go do a permit and everything again. I did all the permit stuff again and submitted it and got it to Michael. Michael's saying now that we may have to pay to meet there.
yeah, you're going to have to, he said, because they're charging the city clerk already for the time. And here's what happened. I found out about that.
For labor of the people.
Right. It's because they charge the person makes $20 an hour, and after 5 o'clock, you got to pay for that person.
Right.
So that's a new thing that they have. So now, where before they were, remember, they were open till 9, whatever it was, 9, because other things were happening.
He told me 8 o'clock. He told me after 8. He's told me that we may, if they say there's 2 possibilities because they're open until 8. And he said there's a staff member. So it'd be 1 hour that we would have to pay, which would be like $60-70 a meeting.
Yeah.
But the other problem is that with that being said, is that there's another scenario where they might waive it if Michael makes it on the board.
It'd be cheaper to do the Zoom.
It's a
Yeah,
lot.
but Kelly, they're not going to, because they want us to go back to in person. The whole thing is the city doesn't want to spend any more money every month for the Zoom. And they won't spend the $10,000. But biggest problem we got, that building can't handle the damn Zoom. It's a brick and concrete building. You're going to have to give it designated Wi-Fi in there. They're not going to pay that.
Hotspots probably won't work in there.
It won't. They barely work decent out in the street when you're driving on the car and stuff, let alone in a building,
Yeah.
So it's going to be in person, and they're going to go back to it.
Unless the city council changes. Supposedly there's an emergency thing in for city council to change to implement an emergency thing revision on the AB whatever. There's
We can't count on that.
LA did that.
We
they're
can't count on
trying
that.
to get it revised.
Yeah.
And then it'll be up to each neighborhood council what we do.
Yeah.
I'm just not excited about going in person, being on Rituxan again and being immunocompromised and trying really hard to get COVID.
Well, there's just a few people that are going to have to wear masks, and then, those that don't, but
then nobody would be offended if I'm wearing my KN95 strapped to my face and kind of sitting away from everybody.
Of course
Yeah.
not, Melanie.
Yeah.
Everyone should do exactly what they feel comfortable doing.
that's right.
Exactly.
So if I want to wear a tank top and be in shorts and flip-flops, Oh, no, that's somebody else. Sorry.
Cover your knees and shoulders.
So,
Is there a dress code?
Oh, no, that's just sort of the general, like, cover your
No.
knees and shoulders.
no, what I said was a couple of people already understood what I said.
Yeah. I just feel like we've had more attendance on Zoom than we have in participation than we were in person.
Well, it's like one of the, it's like some of the people said that maybe people would like to come back out and be, right now hospitals are super low. They've only got onesie twosies at Torrance and UCLA, Cedars-Sinai, they're all down into the 8, 7, 5. It's the lowest it's been in a long time. So, but,
It's not gone.
no, it's not
It
gone,
isn't
but
gone.
it isn't as bad.
There is quaking out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, could be worse. I mean, we could have a 7.8 earthquake and,
No kidding.
after seeing what happened to those poor people in Turkey,
God, I know.
So, but you know what though? I mean, it's good to get out. I mean, but everything here again, it's going to cost. I just talked to somebody today. This is incredible. I mean, it has to do with food, and I'm sorry, but when you walk into Ralph's and you see a dozen eggs for $8.49, well, but then I was talking to somebody today, and I said, and he's telling me, he goes, look, he knows I buy 3-4 pounds of Romano cheese, right? And I grate it, and so he says, well, better buy it now because next week it's going up to $16.99 a pound.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's $12.99 right now. So I mean, $4. I mean, everything is just going skyrocketing, and Zoom and all these other things are going to go up.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. A friend of mine went and got, he was at Lowe's, he got some wood, and it fluctuates up and down, and they were saying the plywood is still up in the 60s and $70 a sheet. It's like, my God.
I think Zoom laid off over 5,000 employees today.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
they're
did.
coming to the end of their saga of success as
Right.
people
Yeah.
go back to work.
Right, and that's what it is. They've opened up the floodgates, and now they're telling people, hey, you don't have to be home anymore. You can come.
Well, they're ordering
Yeah,
them
the
back.
plywood cost is the reason why my mom, her house, they had to repair her roof, and they had to redo all the plywood layer and all that at the very bottom and redo it. And because they had to redo it and a complete tear off and redo, almost $50,000 to do her house and her duplex.
Yeah, because a lot of it is the wood. The plywood is just,
They said the plywood was really expensive
yeah.
to lay on the house.
So you guys, I have a kid I still have to go pick
Okay.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next meeting.
But what next meeting? What do you guys think?
Well, do we want to do it? The elections are April 1st, and then there's a lot of things happening. Do we want to do it in March? Or do we want to do
The
it?
question is it going to be in Zoom? If we do it the first week, it can still be in Zoom. Or
Let's
before
do
our
it
board
before
meeting.
the switch to in-person after the meeting that you go to with the Board of Commissioners.
When's that?
The Board of Commissioners meetings is
Oh, the 16th?
Yeah.
So if we could do it like, so you're saying something like the 20th, 21st, 23rd?
Let's look at the calendar.
Well, the problem is we have to make sure that we can use the Zoom.
So Melanie, do you want to get back to us on a date that Zoom
Just
is
give me some
available?
dates and we'll figure it out. I'll contact Victor about when Zooms are available. So
Yeah, if we don't go through Vic, he's the one that's gonna know.
the 20th is President's Day.
No, so it'd have to be the 21st through the 24th.
I am good either of those 2 weeks for a weeknight meeting. I don't have anything on my calendar that's not neighborhood council.
So the 23rd we
on
can, it's
weeknight.
public safety. The 22nd I can't because I have my mom an appointment that I have to take her to the orthopedic.
Did you move the public safety back to the 23rd?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
21st?
The 21st be the only, that Tuesday would be available.
So that's 2 weeks from tonight. I like that. It's very symmetrical.
21st of February.
I like the word
Okay.
symmetrical. That was
Can't
good.
do that, then the only option he's probably gonna give me is the 24th.
I mean,
Is that date
I'll
night
meet
for
on a
anybody?
Friday.
Raise hands or any.
Huh?
Does anybody have date night on a Friday? So just,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he's gonna tell me the 24th is the other possibility, because he gave me that date before.
it's just that Fridays,
The
nobody does.
27th is taken, and then the 28th,
It's community issues.
that's the issues meeting.
Yeah.
So then we end up into March, budget and finance is the 1st, but we could do Thursday the 2nd.
I could do Thursday the 2nd.
So could I.
All right.
It
Chris,
sounds good,
Kelly?
but it sounds good. Are we going to be able to be in person? Is that going to have to be in person though?
No, those will be Zoom still,
I
Okay.
have,
until we do our neighborhood council meeting and get a,
23,000 pounds of fentanyl. in
Can you
just
do
a
it,
few
Chris?
months.
I have school-based management starting at 3:30, so 5:30 might be a little tight, but I can do it.
do you want to do 6 o'clock?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Are you watching the State of the Union while you're meeting with us?
Won't be fixed
Yes.
till Congress acts.
Oh,
If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform.
yeah, so we've got 2 dates. I might go ahead and just book 2 dates with him to have the 2 dates. That way they're stuck in Zoom. And that way we have 2 dates to work with to kind of finalize things. And if there's a letter involved here, then we can finalize the letter and get it ready for March's neighborhood council meeting.
Well, you know, even if we get together, I told you I talked to Christian, we got the room 452 again.
The problem is that I have with that city hall room, that's not in our area. Our area is northwest, not central to use that building. Our stakeholders expect us to meet in northwest area.
Melanie, that has literally never been an issue, ever.
Yeah, we've used, we
Ever.
do the youth and outreach over there
10,
and issues
10,
committee.
12, 14 years. It's never been an issue.
Yeah, because I was told to use Peck Park for my meetings.
By whom?
Initially with public safety and budget and finance, that's where I met all the time.
Who told you?
I think it was Ray way back when to use it.
No, we use it. The executive board uses that same room. Because I'd been there to the executive board meeting.
Anyway, we need to meet where we can meet, and if
And it
Peck
doesn't
Park
cost
is,
us, it doesn't cost us anything there, so.
it doesn't cost us anything.
Right now, we're
Then
still
we
able
have
to
to
use
look at the no
Zoom.
cost.
Right now, we can still use Zoom, so these 2 meetings I'll just schedule
Yeah.
on Zoom. And after that, if we have to meet in person, then we'll figure out where we go from there. You know, after that.
Right. Okay,
There's so much unknown with this. It's kind of like, it's like ill planning on everybody's part in the upper levels for this to just all of a
Well,
sudden.
nobody planned to go out for COVID, and nobody's planned to go back in.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's situation
Exactly.
normal,
Yeah.
situation normal.
So we got March 2nd and what else?
February 21st and March 2nd are the 2 dates.
And then we
And I
can,
guess I'll just do them at 6 p.m.
we can report on
Okay.
this Park and Recreation
Say
Commission
6
meeting.
to 7:30.
Oh. About,
Okay,
I don't have my calendar right here. I wish I did.
Already?
I would just suggest that members of the committee write down your thoughts about the kinds of requests we want to make of
Right. And
recreation
if
and
anybody
parks
has
and the-
some
and the
gumption,
police department.
on a couple of letters, start them.
I'll start scribbling. I love writing letters.
You know, seriously, if I think, you know, everybody should partake in the writing and all that, like we did last time, and just kind of play with it and everybody, take a hit at it. And just
Do
see
you want us
what
to
we
send them
can,
to you before the meeting? Do you want to try to compile them together? Do you
yeah,
want to
so I
do like
can put them up on the
before?
screen and
Okay,
everything.
so that's good. We've
Yeah.
got 2 action plans now. You're going to the Board of Commissioners, and we are going to send you draft letter ideas that you can compile and put together for our next meeting.
And Chris, if you're there, if you want to work on that, if you want to draft up a letter, a rough draft of a letter to the mayor, that would be great.
People the public could chime
Yeah, I
in.
can do that.
Cool.
Okay.
I like
America's failing in the
that.
world.
Alrighty, sounds good. I think we're done.
Funny how,
Um,
funny how
tonight.
Chris sounds like Kevin McCarthy.
yeah.
You guys,
All right.
thanks.
Good.
I missed you all. This has been a lovely reunion.
Nice to
Yeah.
see you.
Yes,
My
it
phone
has.
is dying,
to
so it's
cover,
nice to see you guys too. Take
Guys,
care.
and if we do, when we do the public safety thing, whether it be, oh God, that may have to be in person. Where would we do that, John?
All right,
No more
good night,
tangents.
guys.
I've got to go.
Well,
pick up
if the
kids.
public, if they're gonna
Bye.
do the public safety,
Bye.
why,
Angela.
Ready?
you used to have it at
Bye.
Peck Park.
No, but if we do the special meeting, I guess that would be at Peck Park, the special public safety special meeting on break-ins.
If we do
I
it,
don't
yeah.
have to use the gymnasium if I get a bunch of people that show up from Taronga and all of that.
Yeah,
I thought,
so we'd have to do that. So let's talk about that.
We'll have
Let's
to
talk
figure
about it.
about.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
All right.
alrighty,
Well,
talk to
thank
you
you,
later.
everybody. We'll
Thanks,
talk to you later.
everybody.
Thanks.
alrighty, okay,
Bye.
alright.
Night, Chris.
Night all.
Night, Chris. Night.
Good night.
All right.
Winning the competition should be not.